Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi reiterated Egypt's firm opposition to displacing Palestinians from Gaza, expressing confidence in resolving the crisis. Meanwhile, humanitarian efforts continue with the Egyptian Red Crescent's 58th convoy as the UNRWA urges urgent aid access ahead of winter. Welcome to our special coverage on Qnews, where we tackle the latest developments around the world.
والله العظيم ولا حبة رز، والله العظيم والله حبة عدس. ما فيش أكل، ما فيش شرب، عندي بنت 2.5 صارت تطلع.
Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has reaffirmed Egypt's steadfast rejection of any attempts to displace Palestinians from Gaza, stressing confidence in Egypt's ability to end the crisis and alleviate the suffering of the Palestinians. He underscored that Egypt's stance and the Sharm el-Sheikh agreement reflect the justice of the Palestinian cause. President al-Sisi emphasized that Egypt has neither wronged nor encroached upon anyone's rights, highlighting that true victory stems primarily from the strength and unity of the people, for a nation that refuses defeat is destined to prevail. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has expressed gratitude for ending the Gaza war after 2 years of suffering, highlighting Egypt's decisive and principled stance against displacement. He stressed that Egypt's efforts focused on peace and Palestinian rights. That came as President al-Sisi attended Egypt's national celebration, Nation of Peace, marking the 52nd anniversary of the October War victory. Upon arrival, President al-Sisi signed Egypt's Message of Peace to the World, reaffirming peace as a strategic and enduring principle of Egypt's policy. The Egyptian president also praised the October War spirit, emphasizing that victory came through the strength and resilience of the Egyptian people. The Egyptian Red Crescent, the ERC, has dispatched its 58th Zad el-Izza from Egypt to Gaza humanitarian convoy, and this includes 423 trucks carrying over 10,000 tons of food, fuel and medical aid as Egypt continues to back the Palestinian people amid a fragile truce and worsening humanitarian crisis. According to the ERC, the convoy includes 300,000 food parcels, 540 tons of flour, 3,000 tons of medical and relief supplies, and 1,800 tons of fuel bound for the devastated enclave. And since the start of the conflict, Egypt has sent over 500,000 tons of humanitarian aid through ERC convoys supported by 35,000 volunteers. Launched on the 27th of July, the Zad el-Izza initiative has maintained a continuous presence at the Rafah crossing, coordinating the delivery of essential relief to Gaza. And Jordan's King Abdullah II has reaffirmed his country's unwavering support for the people of Gaza, pledging to continue sending humanitarian aid and medical assistance. And speaking at the opening of the second ordinary session of the 20th Jordanian Parliament, the king rejected ongoing Israeli violations in the West Bank and emphasized the Hashemite custodianship over Islamic and Christian holy sites in Jerusalem. And he highlighted Jordan's resilience amid the regional and global crises, its progress in political and economic reforms, and the continued drive to modernize education, healthcare, and transport systems, stressing that Jordan remains strong and steadfast despite surrounding challenges. And the UN Relief and Works Agency, the UNRWA, has called for an immediate entry of the humanitarian aid into Gaza as winter approaches. And shelter materials and winter supplies are stuck in warehouses in Egypt and Jordan, while only 80 to 90 aid trucks enter Gaza daily, far below the 600 promised by Israel. A UN humanitarian update has reported that Israeli forces have killed at least 40 children in the occupied West Bank this year, accounting for 20% of all Palestinian fatalities. And since October 2023, at least 77 Palestinians have died in Israeli detention, and over 3,000 have been displaced by settler violence. UNICEF Middle East Director Edward Begbieter has warned that the Gaza ceasefire is critical for the survival and safety of children, describing the destruction he witnessed as devastating and long-lasting. He called for all crossings to be opened, faster aid delivery, and immediate medical access for children in need. And for further analysis, we are joined from Cairo by the international relations expert, Mr. Mohammed El-Yamani. Welcome, sir, to Qnews, and thank you for joining me here today. Sir, how do you view Egypt's efforts to deliver aid to the Gaza Strip?
Good evening to you and to everyone who's watching. My opinion here and the actual opinion on Egypt and its administration has more than one level to rate on. We talked about the diplomatic level, the logistical and the security ones too. These are very important and crucial when it comes to delivering aid to the Gaza Strip, because Egypt has been having so much obstacles, either because of the Israeli occupation monitoring the trucks, or because of all the rubble, and because there is no force in the Gaza Strip to distribute this aid and to make sure that it reaches all the Gazans in the strip and in the neighboring cities. And so this is one thing. And then the other thing, Egypt has played a crucial role diplomatically to deliver aid, and with large numbers. We know that the Israeli occupation forces are what's hindering the aid delivery and are an obstacle when it comes to delivering a number of trucks that was agreed upon in the Sharm el-Sheikh agreement under the support of President El-Sisi and President Trump. It was agreed upon to deliver around 600 trucks, maybe, but actually around 400 or maybe less are being delivered. And so Egypt here is trying its best and to put so much effort to deliver this agreed upon number, in addition to some of those who were injured, who received medical attention in Sinai and in some of the hospitals. And this also falls under the Egyptian effort at this time. And we also talked about we talked about its efforts diplomatically, but also logistically. It is no less important when it comes to distributing the aid, when it comes to, if they are medical devices, food, fuel, and so on, and they are being classified and categorized professionally so that the Israeli forces don't have any problems, so that they don't come out and say that there are some obstacles with the trucks, or that they have things that we do not agree upon. But
Yes.
Even though Egypt is putting so much efforts diplomatically and logistically, aid is still not being delivered fully. And so but now there is some kind of facilitation because of the US and Egyptian pressure, because Egypt wants more cooperation, more international cooperation and regional when it comes to facilitating aid delivery, because Egypt has
Mr. Yamani, can I ask you, how do you see the role of Egypt, what it will be playing regarding the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip and the Egyptian role?
This is a very important question here. The reconstruction of Gaza It is one of the main points that that were discussed, and one of the things that President El-Sisi was insisting on with President Trump, and it is also in the American plan that was then agreed upon and passed. This agreement that was done, and the summit that was held in Sharm el-Sheikh, the reconstruction issue. Egypt is pushing this to happen, and they are calling for the support of Arab, Islamic, and international countries around the world. And so, if we talk here about Egypt's role, especially when it comes to the reconstruction, they are in contact either with the U.S. administration or with the diplomatics, the American ones, like Wetkoff and other leaders, as well with the American administration. And of course, this has been discussed when our foreign minister, Dr. Badr Abdelati, was there in the UN meeting, or almost all of the emirs and presidents were there in this UN meeting. And so this was discussed, but after discussions or post discussions, the war needs to end completely, and we need to reach a full implemented ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, and then other conditions also.
Actually, that was my next question. I'm just about to ask you, what about Egypt's role in preventing the violations of the ceasefire agreement in Gaza?
When it comes to the Israeli violations, of course, Egypt is the contact channel here, or the channel of communication with the leadership of President El-Sisi. It moved on from being a mediator to they have the right to mediate and to de-escalate the tension so that Israel doesn't violate any point of the agreement. We know that a few days or even a few hours after the agreement signing, we saw some violations, but not full-on violations or breaches in the Gaza Strip. And there were just a few field operations, and this is what U.S. President has talked about, and he wants the war and the Gaza Strip to end, and he knows that the Israeli operations and the Israeli breaches are there, and he is just turning a blind eye to them when it comes to Israel and Netanyahu. And the other thing here is Egypt has played and is still playing this role, either when it comes to the agreement of Hamas, or the leniency that Hamas has shown when it comes to this agreement. If it weren't for the Egyptian leadership and effort and the negotiations and everything, we wouldn't have reached this point here, and we wouldn't have reached such an agreement and the de-escalation that Egypt has reached under the leadership of President El-Sisi. And what's expected that in the upcoming days, Israel will be pressured, Hamas as well, so that they don't do anything that they don't do anything that Netanyahu would be waiting for, so that Israel has a justification or a pretext.
That's also, again, I'm getting back to Netanyahu, sir. Do you think he has an attempt, if he would attempt to restart the war in the Gaza Strip? Do you think Netanyahu would do that?
Of course, Netanyahu, ever since the war started, has had some pretexts, which is some of the one of them was eradicating Hamas, calling them a terrorist movement. They said what happened on the 7th of October was some act of terrorism. And so, everything that we heard from them ever since 8th of October 2020 through, and then they are also using the justification of releasing the detainees, the alive ones. They were talking lately about the bodies and the remainings of the bodies. And they're facing lots of obstacles when it comes to getting the bodies from under the rubble. They need bulldozers and so on. And then the other thing is, does Israel has other justifications or pretexts so that they can go back to war? Just before this, I talked I said that they don't need to, but if they want to, yeah, they will go back to the Gaza Strip and they will reignite the war. But they weren't there in the previous agreement. Something that wasn't there in the previous agreement was the USA willingness and the objectives. Now we see that Israel is totally isolated, and that this needs to be taken into consideration. And so the U.S. needed to be a part of this agreement now, and then also Britain, France, and the other countries' recognition of a Palestinian statehood. And so USA doesn't want to go back to how it was before. We cannot forget that there is a strategic relationship between USA and Israel, and so yeah. USA is saying that they are helping Israel.
And that was Mr. Mohammed El-Yamani from Cairo, the international relations expert. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us here on Q News.
كل الشكر لمصر العظيمة، مصر الشعب المصري العظيم الذي نحبه من أعماق قلوبنا نحن كفلسطينيين.
تقدير الكبير لدور مصر في منع أخطر مؤامرة كانت تجري، وهي التطهير العرقي والتهجير للشعب الفلسطيني.
موقف مصر الذي منع التهجير، موقف مصر الذي ساند القضية على مدار عشرات السنوات الماضية.
بات من الضروري والملح الآن التحرك وطنيا وفلسطينيا وبدعم من الشقيقة مصر من أجل بلسمة جراح شعبنا.
لا يفوتني في هذه اللحظة أن أشكر إخواننا في مصر على الجهود الكبيرة التي بذلت.
ما كنا نسعى إليه على امتداد الشهور الماضية بمساهمة نشطة من قبل إخوتنا في جمهورية مصر العربية كان يهدف إلى إقرار وإحلال وقف إطلاق النار.
لطالما احتضنت القاهرة اللقاءات الوطنية بشكل دائم.
Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has issued a constitutional decree, and the decree assigns the deputy chairman of the Palestine Liberation Organization Executive Committee to assume the duties of the Palestinian Authority president in case of vacancy. Earlier, the Fatah movement has affirmed that the statements issued by several Palestinian factions after their meeting in Cairo underscore that the true guarantor of any unified Palestinian vision is the Palestine Liberation Organization and the State of Palestine. Hamas leader Khalil El-Hayya has stated that Israel failed to achieve its objectives after 2 years of war, affirming that Hamas will not provide any pretext for renewed fighting. And he revealed that 20 Israeli detainees were handed over within 72 hours of the ceasefire, and that the new areas will be searched Sunday to locate the remains of the Israeli detainees. El-Hayya confirmed agreement among factions that the UN mission will oversee Gaza's reconstruction, stressing openness to any national figure residing in Gaza to manage the territory. He reiterated Hamas's readiness for elections, noting that the arms issue remains under discussion and that the UN forces would be accepted as broader monitors. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has declared that Israel does not seek permission from any party to launch strikes in Gaza. Speaking at a cabinet meeting, he stressed that his country alone determines its security policy and which international forces it deems acceptable. Netanyahu said Israel will continue to act independently and respond to any threats as seen in Lebanon and Gaza, and he added that this approach has been acknowledged and accepted by the United States, according to recent statements from senior American officials. The Israeli government spokesperson has said Israel currently holds the remains of 13 detainees recovered from Gaza, affirming that efforts are underway to retrieve all missing Israeli bodies. And in a press briefing, she stressed that Hamas will have no role in Gaza's future governance and confirmed that Israel intends to maintain full security control over the Gaza Strip to prevent any resurgence of militant activity.
Matthew Duran from ABC Australia.
And for further analysis, we are joined from Qnews by the Director of the Media and Spokesperson for the Palestinian Red Crescent, Raed Mohammed El-Nims. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much for joining me here today at Qnews. Sir, can you share with us how do you view the Palestinian president's decision to appoint a deputy in case his position becomes vacant? U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has announced that Washington is seeking input on a potential UN resolution or international agreement to authorize a multinational peacekeeping force in Gaza. The proposal is expected to be discussed in Qatar today. Rubio has explained that several nations interested in contributing funds or personnel will require such authorization due to their domestic legal frameworks. Rubio told reporters aboard his flight between Israel and Qatar before heading to Asia that they have a whole team working on that outline. The Israeli occupation military has announced carrying out an airstrike in El Nusayrat in central Gaza, despite a ceasefire mediated by U.S. President Donald Trump. Meanwhile, El Auda hospital has reported receiving 4 wounded civilians after a strike hit a car near the El Ahli club in the El Nusayrat camp. And that came as the Israeli occupation military has reaffirmed it would continue operations in Gaza to remove any immediate threat to its forces. And in the West Bank, far-right Israeli Minister Bezalel Smotrich has urged pro-annexation settlers to hold weekly demonstrations similar to the protests by families of Israeli detainees, aiming to pressure the U.S. President Donald Trump into reversing his opposition to Israel's plan to impose sovereignty over parts of the occupied West Bank. And that came as the U.S. President Donald Trump has recently reiterated his firm rejection of any annexation move following the Knesset's preliminary approval of a bill authorizing it, warning Israel that pursuing expansionist policies could jeopardize U.S. support. Smotrich, however, has earlier expressed confidence that the American president would eventually change his stance on the annexation issue. And for further analysis, we are now joined from Cairo by the expert in international relations at Al Ahram, Dr. Ahmed Said Ahmed. Welcome, sir, to Q News. Sir, how do you view the Palestinian president's decision to appoint a deputy in case his position becomes vacant?
Hello, everyone. Of course, the Palestinian president and his decision of having a deputy, this reflects correct Palestinian decisions when it comes to the future of a Palestinian president. Especially with the challenges that they're facing, and with them not guaranteeing 100% that there won't be any political changes. And so, yeah, a lot of things could happen, and also because of other political reasons when it comes to the occupation forces. But it comes in a very important context here, and it is that they're sending a message to that the Palestinian president and Palestinian government are doing their part, especially when it comes to they're doing their part and everything that's asked of them, especially when it comes to the US, with the reconstruction. And the Palestinian president, Mahmoud Abbas, said that he has done some reforms and will have some more in the politically too. And so having a deputy is one of them. And then there are also reforms when it comes to organizations and governance, and to enhance transparency, and to work on the upcoming elections in the occupied land, parliamentary and presidential elections.
Sir, how do you see Hamas's efforts to recover the bodies of the Israeli detainees from under the rubble?
In my opinion, I think that their efforts when it comes to retrieving the bodies, of course, the movement wants to say that they are keeping their end of the deal, which has to do with handing over all the detainees alive and deceased, and lots of parts have been released, and also around 15 of the bodies, and there are around 13 more, and there is so much Israeli pressure that are accusing Hamas of stalling and not being serious around finding and retrieving those bodies. And then also President Trump yesterday gave Hamas only 48 hours to retrieve the bodies, or they will face some sanctions. And now Hamas is saying that there are logistical obstacles and technical when it comes to getting the bodies, or accessing all of them because of the rubble and everything. They need bulldozers and so on, and Israel is preventing them from entering the strip, and then also having the bodies in some areas that are under the control of the Israeli occupation. And so, yeah, there have been talks today that Hamas has gave information to their Crescent when it comes to a Israeli soldier. He was with them since 2014 and he's being handed over. But I think that they're putting so much effort, especially also from the mediators like Egypt, to solve this problem, and they've sent some things to help them retrieve the bodies and locate them, because Egypt does not want, or is trying to prevent any pretext or any obstacle that Israel might use and not have them breach the ceasefire, and to move on to the second phase when it comes to opening the corridors, delivering aid, and then starting the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip. And so there is so much effort being put to solve the detainee problems. That there are bodies
Sir,
that are still.
Let me ask you, what is your opinion regarding, I don't know if you would agree or not, could Netanyahu carry out his threats and restart the war in the Gaza Strip, do you think? What are your thoughts about this?
I don't think that Netanyahu could could actually carry out his threats when it comes to going back or reigniting the war. And there are lots of reasons here. The first one is because he is doing some political and military pressure on Hamas, and he's trying to satisfy the far-right government, telling them that the war hasn't officially ended. They still have more phases to come. But the second reason here that's preventing Netanyahu from going back to war is the USA. President Trump has said that the war has ended. He sent envoys over the past few days, and one of them was the Vice President J.D. Vance, Witkoff, Kushner, and so on, to pressure Netanyahu to not go back or not use the detainee bodies as a pretext. And so here the USA is putting so much effort, and it is some kind of leverage on Netanyahu that's preventing him from reigniting the war, especially after President Trump's meeting with the Emir of Qatar, and they said that the agreement will uphold. But
Yes.
there is also
And
pressure on Hamas to.
That was Dr. Ahmed Saeed Ahmed from Cairo, the expert in international relations at El Ahram. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us here on Q News. And as tonight's coverage closes, the Cairo track leaves a narrow but real window. Palestinian factions pledge unity, a technocratic interim administration, and full ceasefire implementation, while Egypt and partners press for verification and clear timelines and reopened crossings. Israel's decisions on withdrawal lines and access will determine whether diplomacy hardens into progress or slips back into confrontation. We'll keep tracking the commitments, the guarantees, and the reality on the ground. And that brings us to the end of our special coverage for tonight. And don't forget to follow Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at QNewsEG to stay informed. And thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more updates on Q News.